For this project, I'm going to use this model. I want to convert him and use him for 40k. I want to get rid of this big skull on the top because I want him to look somewhat different to what he does. I'm also going to get rid of this axe, and the intent is eventually, instead of this axe, I want to give him 2 parrot axes. There's the first parrot axe, which comes from the orc bikers. The second parrot axe also comes from the orc bikers, but it comes from the bikers from the Forge World company rather than from Warhammer. I want to remove the skull. This is one I've already done, and the way I've done it is I started off with, you will need a new fresh blade. I started off with the blade, and basically I've kept on continuously dragging the blade along. So in the case of this one, the blade gets dragged along until eventually you can actually push the blade underneath, and you can move the blade back and forward like this to slowly pull it back. You might need to do it from both sides, you might not be able to do it from one side only. The skull will come off. Obviously, as you can see, it's a mess, but we can fix that. Just want to show you here, this is the 2 parts of the skull. That was the part where it's been separated. You can see it's a little bit rough, but there's not actually that much damage on that from the purpose of how it looks on the outside. And this one, there was a bit more of it, so it comes all the way from here. You still got the teeth, you still got the main structure of the skull. So I'm going to keep both of those parts. At some point they can get reused. That would be the good shoulder, the one where you haven't taken the skull off, and this is the shoulder where you have. So apart from the fact that I keep dropping it, it's more or less a complete shoulder there once you've removed the skull. So now these 3 pieces and the other piece that will end up going in the centre here, obviously I've got to put that in as well, but I'll glue those 4 pieces together, give it time for the glue to bond, and then I'll just go start cleaning up the shoulder. So these are the parts I've got left over that I won't need for this project. 2 halves of the head, the hand, which is for the left hand side, this skull, which I think would be a bloodthirster skull, and the axe. The next stage now is to glue the 2 arms with the axes onto the body. The first one is resin, so obviously we need to use super glue instead of plastic glue. We need to make sure though with this one, we need to make sure that this part is still going to attach in the right place, but I don't want to glue this part on yet because I think it'll get in the way of gluing the painting of the hand. You want to hold it in place anyway to make sure the hand lines up in such a way that the piece will still fit on later on. So the parts I'm going to use from the orc Meganobs, main parts I'm interested in is this piece here. So it basically is both for the power axes. I want to use these 2 cables, and obviously this needs to sit on something. So I'm thinking either using this if possible, or maybe one of these. And then I've got to get the cables to connect to the axes and then connect to the backpack. I've left this piece which will go on to this arm, and I'm going to leave the head off for the purpose of making it easier to paint. On the shoulder on this side, I'm going to use this box again to get one piece out, which is this piece right here with the moon on it. That will end up going on that shoulder. On the other shoulder, I'm going to put this piece which comes from the Deff dreads, and then all I've got to do is work on the base. Now for my miniature, I want to sculpt a rock onto the base to elevate the miniature up. And what I've decided to do is I want to give an overhang onto the rock, and underneath the overhang I was going to put a skeleton, hence this box here. The models are somewhat fixed, but what I'm thinking of doing is I'll use one of the ones without a helmet on it. So one like this. I'm obviously going to have to sculpt the shield off the arm. Same the other side. I'll probably leave the shoulder pads on, although they're not ideal, because as you can see there's a bit of a shoulder guard there. I'm going to put a different type of head on there. I'm thinking I'll probably put a coot skull on instead to make it a bit different. And then I'm obviously going to have to remove this piece of tab at the bottom and cut the head off to do a skull replacement. You can see I've broke the back, the spine, so I can bend them upwards slightly. I've put the coot head on. The arms aren't great because I've got this big shoulder area, but basically what I'll do is I'll paint it so it looks like a piece of rusty armour. And if you look at this one, it's not brilliant on that side because I originally had a shield on it, but the way I'm going to end up sculpting the rock, you won't really see the arm on that side anyway. I've used Vaseline to make it easier for me to push and shape the green stuff, and basically all I've done is try to get it into a rough shape. When the model sits in place, the model can sit in lock. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start shaping it, get a bit of shape out of it. Once I've got a bit of shape, I've got a small piece here of slate, and I can apply the piece of slate on the top here to give me the overhang I'm after. So it looks like basically he tried to get underneath this rock, get a bit of shade. That's where he's died. If you like the video, remember to like, share, and click on the button on the lower right hand side to subscribe.